Okay, so just to begin with, Sibyl, you want to just let us know a little bit about your journey. How did you come onto this path and to this point where, this book came to you?
Thank you, Hiral. It's lovely to be here. Hi, everyone. So, my name is Sibyl, and I've been on the journey of spiritual awakening my whole life, so to say. I was not born consciously awakened like some people. I did not speak to angels or see masters or anything like that. So, for the first 19 years of my life, I was mostly living from the space of um, rational mind. Okay. So I understand very much how that reality looks like. And then when I was 19 and I was studying Latin and English at the time, I went with an excursion of archaeologists to Rome to visit the ancient remainings of the Roman port Ostia. And as I was walking among the remainings, suddenly I had this strange feeling. Oh my God, I know this house. It was so weird for my awareness. When I entered, it was ruins. It's a little bit like Herculaneum and Pompeii, where you still have the walls standing. Sometimes you can see tiles on the floor, but there's not much left. And as I entered that house, it was like, boom, I've been here before. It was like, it's like
Deja. Yeah.
a full body, yeah, full body recognition, right? And I suddenly received information like you were a woman, you had a child, the child was 7 years old, the father of the child left you. I was like, where's all this coming from? I've never experienced anything like that. And then what was really curious is that after I left that house, the friend who was with me at the time, the house that was standing next to it, I knew she lived in there. I knew she was a man. I knew how old she was. I even knew how she looked like. And then suddenly I started running through the remainings. And when I came to the granary part, I felt a fierce pain through my physical body. And I saw how a soldier pierced me. I had no idea what happened to me. So later on, I spoke to my father, who has been more spiritually awakened and practicing different things for all of his life. And he said, "Oh, you had a past life memory come up for you." And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I,
Yeah.
who don't really believe in reincarnation, had a past life memory just plop into my awareness.
Yeah.
And after that, it was like exponential because every time I would go to a place that I've never been before and I had a past, something unresolved from a past life
Mm.
there, the memory would come up. And with the memory, also, I could see the whole story through my, I now understand, I was seeing it through my third eye. And it was like a movie for me. So
Mm.
I could see exactly what happened there, what remained unresolved. And I was, it is a little bit fascinating for human awareness, but at the same time, I also received feelings, emotions. It was like with one leg, I was in this lifetime, and with another one, I was in the past. So
Yeah.
it took me a couple of years to learn how to navigate this.
Mm.
And from there, when I was 24 years old, I was one day walking my dog. But as I said, I had to visit a place for a past life memory to come up. When I was 24 and I was randomly walking my dog, I was suddenly standing in the middle of the field. So, mind you, that was back in 2013. So, that followed that big wave of awakening in 2012,
Yeah.
right? So I was standing in the middle of the field, and suddenly it was like a giant download. Somebody bumped me on the head with a pen, like Rapunzel style, if you've seen the Disney movie. And it was like, boom, you're not from here. Boom, you're an ambassador of Orion. Boom, 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 boom. It was like, whoa, what's going on to me? What's happening? And then I had a huge spiritual, I will call it crisis now, I understand. And for the past 12 years, I've been on a journey of reconciling with all the realities that I can see, that I can perceive. I have then also been, so then I started not just seeing past lives, but I also, the Ascended Masters started appearing to me the same way through the third eye. So I see them they're like their human form. So for example, Jesus, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Mahavatar Babaji, Paramahansa Vishwananda, Paramahansa Nityananda. It doesn't matter what spiritual tradition, it doesn't matter what religion, like if I am connected with them for this lifetime, they will appear to me and make themselves known. So how did this book, it was a bit of a long introduction, but how did this book
Required.
come about, right?
Yeah.
So I have, since I was a little girl, I had this wish to write books. But I was always saying, what am I going to write about? I didn't feel I had anything to write about. And so I kept postponing that and postponing. And then I remember when I was in high school, my teacher told me, oh, you know, you are very perceptive and very analytical, so you would make a fine literary critic, but you could never be an author. And that really, really hurt me. And it just destroyed my creative power. I allowed it. Now I understand. I allowed it to destroy my creative power. So I completely disregarded then, okay, I'm not going to be an author. That's not my path. You know how the mind starts. Um, and then I said to myself, later on, when I reflected back on that, I said, I still have a deep wish to write books, but I will not write a book unless an ascended master tells me that I should write one. And last year in February, Jesus came to me and he started revealing things about himself, about his family, that he had siblings. And I was like, where is all this coming from? Why are you
Yeah.
sharing all this with me? I felt honored, of course, deeply honored. And I was like, but I'm sure there's a reason. You wouldn't be just sharing these things with me because, you know, you think I'm a curious person. I am, but I know that whatever the ascended masters share with me, there's always a deeper reason for that. So I patiently went through the whole year and I was allowing these breakthroughs to be happening. And then somehow the idea came about that me, Anna, and Nikunj, my business partners and friends, and I could say partners in crime of the spiritual journey we've been on, the idea just come, let's go to India. And I'm like, well, yes, but Jesus is saying that if we go to India, we need to follow his steps. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, Jesus told me he went to India. I know there are some traditions that mention that, or there is some kind of a knowledge present, although it's not very firmly established now in our culture, in our understanding worldwide. And Jesus says that he wants to bring that awareness to people. And so he's been talking to me about his siblings and about how things really worked, you know, and what it means to be enlightened in human form. And I myself went through the experience of self realization and God realization just before we went to India and understood, okay, so I'm going through this so I can understand how it was for him. So then he led us. So, this first book that I am now writing is about writing how Jesus came, channeling how he came from his home in the back then. Not he wasn't living in Jerusalem. He was living a little bit north from Nazareth. So how from there he traveled all the way to India, and how he traveled up to the Himalayas, which places he visited, and every place he stopped, and he traveled with his sister called Rosemary, everywhere they went, how did that work? How did things unfold for them? How did they, you know, back then, think about it. Had no cell phones. They had no Google Maps, right? You know, how did they navigate? They didn't know people. Jesus didn't know people, I mean, where they were going. So it's fascinating for me to observe how they were, with their awareness, with their consciousness, because they were so advanced, how they were able to navigate the very, very many obstacles of the physical reality in which they lived. And they actually presented themselves as a husband and wife because that was far more acceptable to the minds of people back then than it would have been if he said, oh, I'm traveling with my sister. Oh, no, that would not go that well. So the first book really talks about his breakthroughs, the first breakthroughs in his journey of becoming God realized, because Jesus was born self-realized, but when he went through his journey of awakening in India, he became God realized, which means he not only perceived the divinity within himself, but he perceived the divinity within everyone. And when he came back from India with his sister, that's when his real mission began, the last 3 years of his life. So this book really speaks about how the Jesus that we know today was born.
That's fascinating. Just give me 1 second. I'm so sorry, my throat.
It's okay. You're processing. There's a transmission happening, I can tell you.
I'm back. Sorry. I think yeah, a lot of clearings happening for me as we talk. So yeah, it's I think it's beautiful and fascinating. And what came to me like when you were speaking, why this book now? Like, what comes through strongly for some reason is that there are a lot of light workers right now who are at a stage where they have awakened. There is this realization that, we're here for a purpose. We're here for like a double mission kind of a thing. Yes, for our own evolution, but also the ascension of Mother Earth. And yet there is this whole journey where you need to learn to navigate from the inner compass, which none of us have ever really been taught, right? So what the first thing that dropped through was that maybe understanding his journey, his journey from the starting of how he actually learned this mastery is going to really help people to trust their own, because I feel like when we are told stories about gods or prophets, it's like they were born with it, they were born with this knowledge. It just dropped in. But I think we are learning that the reality of the masters is they also went through these big struggles. They were human. They were kind of contracted into the human body, mind, and the same limitations that we are, no matter what their purpose and their level of soul mastery was. When they were here, they were contained in the same vessel as we are. And when we understand that they learned to navigate from within and kind of break through and keep listening to that guidance and working in tandem with the divine, how it kind of led to them living out their purpose, right? So I don't know, it comes to me very strongly. And, since whatever you've channeled so far, do you think that there is a reason why, like what came to me first was also, why is this book surfacing now, right? What could that correlation be? So what do you feel about that? Is there a reason which is linked to this?
Yes, you have pointed to a very, very important reason why this book actually is coming to light today. So, one of the reasons is because, as you say, light workers are waking up. There's a lot of spiritual awakening, a lot of progress in this area. But every light worker who is walking their own spiritual awakening is also doing it for the planet Earth. Now, it's one thing to be on the journey of spiritual awakening, and sort of trying to tiptoe, where am I going? Where am I going? Okay, I just know I'm liberating myself. Now, when we speak about the planetary awakening, at some point, all of the light workers will need to come together. And the beauty of what Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary did is they created like a spiritual community. Okay, so Jesus also wants to show us through, there is going to be 3 books. This is just the first part that, as you say, is showing how he started by mentoring with the ascended masters, because you can't really reach God realization on your own. No matter how much self-reflection you do and self-inquiry, you sort of need that somebody who's walked the path before you to tell you this is where you are on your journey and this is the next step that is coming. And when the next step actually happens and you're like, what is going on in my life? They can say, this is what actually happened. So Jesus wants to really show through a human journey, through a story that we can all connect with, how that worked for him. So he can help others because he is such a figure in I would say human historical collective consciousness that so many people relate to even to this day, no matter what part of his story they connect with, but he as a presence, as an energy. So he feels that if he passes on this message and shares his personal story, it will reach a lot of people and it will help the people. That's why that's one thing. Another thing is to help people understand what actually God realization is and what is it the spiritual workers are working towards and bringing the planet towards. And here you said it very well. You said, okay, so yeah, they had all this mastery and they were condensed and kind of limited within this human body and container and the rules and the laws of the physical reality. So God realization has to happen through human awareness. So many people, so many light workers, they seek for God outside. They go from one healing technique to another. Nothing wrong with that. They're exploring their own divinity. Great, but that's not the ultimate goal. You know, they go from one spiritual tradition to another. They study the sacred texts. Yes, that is all part of the journey. But ultimately, what you are doing or what they are doing is they are just trying to remember the divinity they already are through their human awareness in this physical body. And Jesus wants to show how he did it so that people understand everyone can do it. If you walk the path of self-mastery, if you do the inner work, if you are humble, loving enough, honest, if you recognize what's dharmic, yeah, you can achieve the same level of mastery as he did it. You know why? Because that's the divine right of humanity. That is the divine inheritance of humanity. And Jesus wants to break the myth that enlightenment and God realization or source consciousness is reserved just for a few selected people. No, no. That's, I think, and the reason why this is coming now is because humanity is ready. Consciousness has evolved enough, has expanded enough. Earth has been reconnected with the rest of the universe on the energetic level, because as you know, after the fall of Atlantis, we've actually been energetically disconnected. And because of the fall of the consciousness, the memory as well of those who were not enlightened fell. So now that has been broken free. Humanity, after so many millennia, has a wonderful opportunity to really reach its potential. And when the disciple is ready, the master appears. Humanity as a collective disciple is ready, therefore the masters appeared. And they are now speaking.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And what I loved when you were speaking is what came through very strongly was that there's always this thin line, you know. I feel like um, when you are on this path, you have to walk that line knowing you are a vessel and be humble and know that it is not you, you are not the doer. And yet you have to have enough amount of self love and self worth to claim your mastery as a vessel. Because if you do not, you cannot tune your instrument to actually channel the divine. Right. So there is this really fine balance where I feel sometimes people go into a very spiritual ego kind of a situation, and sometimes people just keep seeking but they're not able to actually embody, right? So what comes to me is that this transmission, remembering through Jesus's words and his story intimately, do you feel this is something that would help a person to understand that balance more clearly?
Yes. Um, I think you pointed it really well and rightly that spiritual arrogance is a real danger. Because people start walking this path of awakening and suddenly like, oh, I'm not just this physical body. Oh, I am now more worthy than others because, now I
Yeah.
know how to heal. Now I know how to channel. Now I know how to do Reiki. Look at me.
Yeah.
No, no, because it's all about recognizing. See, here is the step from self-realization to God realization. You are divine, yes, but so is everybody else. And
Yeah.
there is another important part here. We are all one, and everything is energy first. Yeah, you can call it quantum field, you can call it energy, you can call it source consciousness, but everything exists on that level first. And then it starts to go down through finer and subtle layers until it comes as cascades all the way down to the physical level. And what most people struggle with is when they are in this body, yeah, they only have that perspective. So they're looking from the small out.
Yes.
But the key is to remember, I am the universe
Yes.
inside. So when I look from inside out, I'm not looking from the human awareness. I'm looking from the cosmic awareness that I am. And so, recognizing that, seeing how Jesus recognized that, how he learned to master that, I feel it's like learning by a living example. because this book is a transmission. But Jesus is saying it's not just words, there's also energy behind. And he's saying every single person who will read this book, I will personally be mentoring with their awareness. I will be helping them seeing in their life how to walk the path the same way I did. Not the same way as in to make sure that you stay aligned, yeah, and you don't go into spiritual bypassing, or you're not grounded, or you go into arrogance, or you remain on the stage of spiritual immaturity. That's what he means. Of course, nowadays life looks different than it did back then. But listen, the principles, how you enter into relationships, how you communicate, how you manifest things, laws are the same. And I'll tell you something else. Jesus had the mastery over all 5 elements. So can you. But not if you think you're manipulating reality. But as
Yeah,
you say,
absolutely.
it just flows through you. We are just witnesses. Our human awareness is just a witness. I know that to somebody who's listening to this, you'll be like, what on earth is she talking about? Yeah, it might take months or hours or years before somebody who's listening to this will understand what I'm actually saying. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, and I'll keep repeating it. And there's the book of Jesus as well. So um, it also, there's another thing to understand. We all learn in different ways. Okay, so that is quite obvious when it comes to school examples, right? So some people, they learn by doing, some people, they learn by visually seeing, some people learn by hearing it. But have you ever thought that the same applies when it comes to learning about the cosmic truths? Huh? So, the book is one way of delivering the message and one way of teaching. Having a living master is another. Huh? Discovering everything on your own and maybe mentoring through the third eye is, some people just hear, they don't see, like me.
Yes.
That's all okay. So the important thing is you find the method that works for you.
I love that. When you were speaking, what was really coming through for this point was that this thing you shared about learning in different ways. So I wanted you to kind of talk a little bit more about what did you learn? Rather, what was coming through is that just the way through Jesus' story. I think as a channel, you always receive first, right? So what are some of the shifts which you felt? Because when you initially spoke about how you received an experience where you were told by a teacher that you can never be a writer, right? And instantly that was like, in overcoming that obstacle was the only way you could actually step into your gift properly. In the same way, I feel like there may be many others through the channeling of this book. What are some of the shifts that you felt in yourself happening through? To just draw a parallel.
Mhm. That's a very, very good question. It's a beautiful one. So thank you for asking that. Um, it is interesting how there is no coincidence in which parts of the book I channel at which stage. Because I am not channeling this in a linear way. I didn't start with day 1, day 0, and then until the end. It's like Jesus tells me, okay, today you're going to channel about this part of the journey. I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm to channel. And how does that happen? He always mentors my awareness first. So actually it's less that when the transmission happens and I actually write the book, that's what shifts me. The shift has to happen for me first before I even channel. Yeah? That's how he, together with Paramahansa Nityananda, led me to God realization. I had to understand in human body what it means to be God realized or to experience God realization, to be able to even understand what Jesus is trying to tell me. If my apparatus of this human awareness is limited, how can I be an authentic channel and give you an authentic transmission? So in a way, okay, one thing was physically leading me and my business partners through going through India, going and journaling through those places. So in December, when we went, we visited Rishikesh. We visited Babaji's cave. So these are extremely important places. Were also for Jesus, and what he was going through, we went through.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that we had to go through a whole shift of consciousness so that I, as a container, as a channel, that my awareness is expanded enough that he can then bring that transmission through in an authentic, uncorrupted, unbiased way. And I will say also this, for example, it's not just the book that I'm channeling, it's also other services or like other things that we do. And whatever is coming in parallel, any new programs, any new workshops, they bring exactly what we need to go through again so that I can channel then the next part of the book.
Yeah.
So that's how it works for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think I can completely I'm experiencing personally as well, that everything on the mystery path you have to go through first. Only after that initiation and through that learning can you hold space for somebody else to also learn from that. I think you start reflecting that as a mirror out there. So someone can actually take those codes, or what comes through me also to say is that the codes get unlocked. And so you become the holder of those codes for others to then come through.
One thing that I want to add, because you were asking
Yeah.
me not just about the mechanism, but about concrete examples. So one was God realization, but the other one I wanted to bring forth was trust in myself.
Yeah.
As the divinity that I am and as a channel. Because I haven't really been very active publicly. Okay. My friends knew that I can see past lives and channel and do healings and all of that, but due to my past lives and my traumatic experiences, that it doesn't matter what happened, I was so afraid of sharing this, see? And I doubted myself. Oh, but maybe, maybe I'm not really a channel, maybe I'm just, imagining what. But when I went through a physical journey in India, the stuff that we experienced in our physical body, mind cannot comprehend that. And it forces you to let go and just trust. Trust that you're being divinely guided. Trust that you are the divinity. Trust that the only role of your human awareness is just to witness. Yeah. So a lot of self-healing is happening for me through this channeling. And that's my prayer also for anyone who is either listening to this or is going to read the book. May the books bring you self-healing. That's true, self-healing in the sense of reconciling you with your own truth, reconciling you with the truth that you are sovereign, you are divine, you are worthy of being a creator, and you are a creator. You have every right to be free. So that is because all these shifts have happened for me energetically, and I understood and adopted those concepts on the mental plane, sort of on the emotional, but I haven't grounded it in the physical plane. And by doing this book, because it's a physical object, yeah, you're doing a physical act, I am grounding now all the spiritual breakthroughs I've ever had and the new ones that are coming.
Yeah, I love that. Can you take us through one specific example, right? Because when you say God realized, when you say having these experiences, sometimes people think of this as a very, impossible for them kind of a thing. So just to kind of make it more understandable and simple,
More grounded.
like a real, yeah, like a real example which you guys actually had over there, which made you actually understand. Because sometimes I believe that the shifts happen in the really small incidents, but if you are aware, you know that your entire consciousness shifted, right? And people sometimes cannot join the pieces of that puzzle for themselves. So if you could take us through one or two of such situations that you were speaking about, that would really be helpful.
Okay. One such example happened in Mahavtar Babaji's cave. So Mahavtar Babaji's cave, just as a bit of a background for those who may not know, is a physical cave that exists in a valley in the lower Himalayas in India, so in the north. And it's a cave in which Mahavtar Babaji gave Kriya to Lahiri Mahasaya. So Lahiri Mahasaya then brought Kriya as a technique to this world, and I think also to the West. Now, it was 5 of us on the journey, and it was 5 physical people that entered that cave. Okay? We sat down because we all are initiated into, 3 of us were initiated in Kriya Yoga, so we sat down, we started doing Kriya Yoga, eyes closed. Suddenly, I hear like somebody entered the cave. Like really, there was noise, like somebody was taking off the boots, somebody was taking off the jacket, and then was a loud snoring that appeared. And we were like, and I was like, at the same time doing Kriya and trying not to be disturbed, like I had to really stop myself from not turning around.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, maybe this is just, Mahavtar Babaji testing me, how focused I am on my Kriya technique. So no, don't turn around, right? So I do everything. And I could hear breathing. I could physically feel somebody behind me. I finished my Kriya. I turned around. There was nobody behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, because Anna then shared with me, she said, when I heard those noises, I opened my eyes. There was nobody behind you. And we're like, what on earth happened? And then we tuned in and we asked Mahatma Babaji, and he just smiled. And he said, well, you opened the portal. And the sixth person, the sixth soul that has been with us on that journey, but never physically manifested, in that moment, he was there with us. But he was in a different space somewhere on the planet Earth. And it's like, he came into his room, he took off the shoes, he took off the jacket, he went on the bed and fell asleep and started snoring. And I saw in that moment through my third eye, I was like, oh my God, he was dreaming. He was in the cave with us. Whilst
Wow.
we heard with our own physical eyes that he was behind us.
That's insane, right?
Right? Okay, then the next thing that happened to me in the cave itself was I finished my Kriya and I had my eyes closed, and suddenly Mahatma, because you need to understand that this cave was closed by, I don't know by who, but there is now a wall. So you can enter, but you can't really go deep. And apparently there is a tunnel behind. So there's a physical wall. Okay.
Mm.
All right. But I kept feeling, there's something behind that wall. So I sat with my eyes closed, and suddenly Mahatma Babaji appears in front of me in my third eye. He says, come with me. I'm like, where? Let's go behind. Let's go to the inner part, the inner sanctum of the cave. I was like, okay. And there was a fire burning there. So he sat me down and he started looking me directly in the eyes, and I felt the direct transmission happening. So that's a little less concrete example as physically hearing with your eyes, but things like that would keep happening. Wherever we would go, there would be divine synchronicities. Like, for example, then we visited a temple later when we left. No, that was before we came to Mahavata Babaji's cave. We would go to a temple. I think it was a Shiva temple that was on the water. And there was they wanted to build a dam on that river. And when they started building the dam, there were such floods because they wanted to move the temple, see, and the deity got upset.
Mm.
So there was a very strong presence of energies there. So we went there, and then suddenly I was like, there's somebody standing behind me. I could really feel there was somebody behind me, and I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I turned around and I saw Paramahansa Nityananda, not in physical, but I was like, I knew he was behind me. So, it's like I felt that the boundary between physical reality and other parallel realities, or not just parallel realities, but like other, we are in physical body right now, right here, but somebody else with whom I'm energetically connected might be in some other place. But this boundary between me and that person, that started melting away.
Wow.
Then
So this
there
boundary
was,
is,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, you want to come? No, just
No,
complete what you
no,
were saying.
go ahead.
No, this person or this boundary or the soul who was with you, like, would you say they are like part of your soul family, the soul monad, or the frequencies that you are here to share? Because I feel once you start walking on the path that you are meant to, you automatically start attracting them, right? Either in the physical or in the astral, but you start feeling the connections opening. So you think that experience that all of y'all had is completion of that soul family pod?
I think that's just one part of it, because when we went on this spiritual journey through India, one aspect of it is for our own reconciliation with our divinity and reconciliation with our soul family. But the other one is because we are on a mission. We have a big mission to accomplish. And as part of that big mission, there's certain people we need to meet, there's certain energies we need to activate, there's certain portals we need to open, there's certain places we need to visit. So that is another thing that I think is really important for people who are listening or those who will read the book. Things are never linear. It's never just one thing. You might be thinking, oh, right now, I'm having this personal struggle. But you're a light worker. And your breakthrough, you are actually opening the way, not just for yourself, but for God knows how many other thousands of souls. So every step you make, every word you say, it has an exponential effect. It has a ripple effect, and it works on so many different levels. So because I'll tell you this, if going to India was something that was only connected with us reconciling with our soul family, I wouldn't be writing a book about that, because it would not have a value for other people. Jesus wouldn't ask me. He would say, as a guide, because that also happens to me. As a guide, sometimes he says, oh, just go to that place. There's something you need to activate, or you died there in past life and you have to pick up that part of yourself and send the soul back to the source, or there's something you need to release. Well, if that's just for me, of course, I will follow the guidance just like I follow the guidance if it's for the planetary liberation. But when is more than that, that's when they also ask you then to either share publicly with people, write a book, create a program, for example. That's another important thing to know. And here is what I'm going to connect back to the story of Jesus. Now, of course, he went through this God realization because that was part of his mission. But please know, Jesus was married. He was married to Mary Magdalene. They had children. He was also a father. Yeah? So again, people tend to see him as the savior, which he was. People tend to see him as God's son, which he was. But he was also a father. He was also a son. He was also an uncle. He was also a brother. And that multidimensionality is what he also wants to bring your attention to.
Yeah, I love that. So being in the world but not of it, right? So that's exactly what I think every light worker right now needs to embody as well. How to bring in the new templates while being in your human life, not escaping it per se. And one thing which was coming to me to kind of, wanting to ask you to expand on is you kept mentioning mentoring with Jesus or mentoring with the other ascended masters. So, firstly, two questions. One, is this book for someone who is already on a very spiritual path firmly, or is this also for someone who is very new to all of this? And secondly, when you say mentoring, because everyone may not be aware of how an ascended master can actually mentor you, like, is there a specific way only? Is it only through meditation? Are there synchronicities? What are the ways in which, they will know that they are actually being mentored by an ascended master?
Okay, great questions. Thank you. Number one, this book can be read by anyone because it's written as a novel. It's written as a story. And it also has footnotes. So whenever there is something specific, some very technical term, you're going to have an explanation. And that is always then an invitation for you if you want to go deeper within that. So this book, you don't need any spiritual knowledge. It can just be read as a story about Jesus, about his life, opening you another perspective on him. And even if that's the only thing that you take away, that's perfectly okay as well. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. If you want, however, if you're ready and if your awareness is ready, then you are able to experience this transmission material on so many other levels. So that's number one. I think the most important thing here is if the book calls to you, read it or give it a try. Like with anything else in this world, you have free will. Does this resonate with you or not? Will this make you a richer person? Not in terms of course, monetary value, but will it add something to your own experience of yourself in this world? have a go. Maybe you just want to have fun. That's possible too, you know? And that's where I see the beauty in it. This is not a complicated spiritual 1,000 pages
Exactly.
long text that you need years and years of study to decipher and understand. Oh God, no. Jesus was not a complicated man.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of brings to mind how in Hindu culture everything is said through mythology and stories, right? So the stories are just so simple, but actually they're not stories. If you are open, if your awareness is ready to receive, you will actually receive a full transmission or a remembrance or whatever you need to. So I feel, yeah, this book, like you are saying, feels like a transmission that will meet you where you are, and you will receive what you need to based on, your level of awareness and readiness. I
And
love
I'll
that.
say this one more thing. This book is not here to convince anyone into anything. You know, as you say, it's a transmission. If you feel, connect with it. If you don't. It's not here to start a war or anything like that. You know, it's
Yeah.
just a message from Jesus as a master. And this brings me to your second question, which is what does mentoring with the ascended masters mean? How does it look like? And probably how does it specifically come about for me? So, first of all, an ascended master is a soul who had lifetimes in a physical body just like you and me. It might not be that all of those lifetimes were on the planet Earth, because there are also advanced civilizations on other planetary systems. You might have heard about, if you're more into this, Sirius, Pleiades, Lyra, Alpha Centauri, Andromeda as a galaxy, Orion. These are just the ones that are closest to us, so we know most about, but they are not the only ones. So these ascended masters might have had lifetimes where they were training their own souls and their own awareness in achieving that mastery of knowing I am divine in human form and I am the same as everybody else in that respect. We're all energy. And once they reach that, it's like you graduate, we say, from this physical plane. So your soul no longer has to reincarnate in order to realize you are divine. You can, and that's when we call them that they've come to liberate humanity. These are
Mm.
come through as gurus, sadgurus, avatars, God, like Jesus did. Yeah.
Yes.
So ascended masters can either be in a physical form, so you can be following a sadguru that is in actual body, like, I don't know, the two examples that I am personally mentoring with is Paramahansa Vishwananda and Paramahansa Nityananda. Both are currently alive in a physical body like you and me. But then you have other ascended masters who don't permanently take a physical form. They can manifest a physical form at will. Mahavtar Babaji is known for that. He's been appearing to many disciples in a physical form. For example, he appeared to me 3 times in London in a physical form. It's not, he did not look exactly like you see him on the paintings, but I knew it was him, because it's like knowing that somebody is your mother or somebody is your, it's the energy you recognize. So sorry, I lost my thought for a second. Thank God we're recording
But
this. So I was talking about how to mentor, what an ascended master was. Yes, that's where I was. So it can also be that they don't have a permanent form, in which case they can mentor your awareness and get known to you, either through showing up through a book that suddenly appears in your life, okay? Or maybe you hear a recording on YouTube, or maybe you're watching this recording right now and something clicks for you, and so that's another way how they're directing your awareness, although you might not be aware of that in your human awareness in the physical world. They can come through you through symbols, sacred numbers like 111, 222, 444. Maybe you're in one moment, you're asking yourself if you're in the right path, and a car will come in the opposite direction that will have a license plate 4444, and like, oh, okay. And if you know Jesus is close to you, like, Jesus is giving me a sign.
yes.
That's another way, right? It could be, as you say, in meditation. So for some people, They need to be in a quiet space, maybe they lit a candle, some incense. They go in a meditation position, whatever that means for you. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a lotus position. It can just be a comfortable sitting position with your back straight, and you close your eyes and you can either listen to a meditation or recording, or you have your own technique, or maybe you're doing Kriya Yoga. And through that, as you're going deep, we say you go deep actually, but what is happening is your mind is letting go. And as your mind lets go of the control, that's when your awareness is able to expand. Because your mind is a little bit like you can say it's a safety mechanism, yeah? So it prevents you from doing something stupid like jumping from a bridge and killing yourself from the physical body. That's not the aim why you're here. But of course, because of all the past experiences you've gone through, it can also tell you something is dangerous, which is actually not dangerous, but you need to overcome that wounding. So that's another way. So to some people, they really need to not have any disturbances in order to be just with themselves. And then they're able to hear or see or feel. For some people, for example, they will perceive the masters and the energies through body sensations. Yeah. Suddenly they get cold, they get hot, they feel shivering. Maybe they close their eyes and they see some lights going back and forth. Maybe for some people, it's like, and suddenly the frequency changes when there is a presence of a master. So it really depends on, I will say, how you've been mentoring as a soul in your past lives. So what traditions have you been following? What mastery have you achieved? And also, what is your role in this lifetime? What's your dharma? Because whatever is your dharma, so your dharma is your soul's purpose, okay? So whatever is your soul's purpose in this lifetime, well, those are the let's say the skills that on the soul level, they're gonna come through to help you achieve that soul's person. So that's
at different times, there are different masters who will come through, regardless
yes,
of what
yes,
religious background,
yes.
regardless of your cultural, background. The masters appear to you when you need to kind of learn and master what they have already mastered through. Right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I will say, like I said before, when the disciple is ready, the master will appear. Now, many people, also traditions say, no, you should only follow one ascended master or
Yeah.
one sadguru or one teacher or, that's not my experience. Okay.
Nor
I'm not
mine.
saying that
Yeah.
only my way is right or only the way of those people, and the way of those people who are saying you should only follow one is wrong. There is truth in both and value in both, because yes, if you're just going like a headless chicken from one sadguru to another and you don't really commit to anything, of course that doesn't make sense. But for my mission in this lifetime, to fulfill my dharma, I have many guides. And I've realized that that's what works for me. And I had to let go of the guilt or feeling like I'm doing something wrong. Because as I said, I never consciously sought any master. Believe me or not, I have never consciously said, I need a sadguru. I was just living my life and they started coming up in my life. So I was like, okay, and I was a bit confused. So there's Mahatma Babaji. Mahatma Babaji told me you need to go and do Atma Kriya Yoga through Bhakti Marga, which is Paramahansa Vishwananda. Then I met Nikunj. Suddenly Paramahansa Nityananda started appearing to me, although that's his guru. And I was like, what's going on? you know? But now I understand. I am here to bridge all these traditions, and they're all to come through me, and I'm here to radiate all these different traditions in one body. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I think that also links with the fact that we started with, circling back to the first point,
yeah,
that it is time when even the spiritual community, or, everyone who is trying to consciously ascend, also realizes that everything is the same. Everyone is saying the same thing, and it doesn't matter which path per se you follow, as long as you are authentic in the one you follow and you're tolerant to the others, and realize that there are many ways to go to the same destination, and that your journey is going to be the one that you are here to enjoy, but that doesn't mean everybody needs to, right? So yeah, I love
and
that. So I think, yeah.
circling back to the book, if I may, because I
Yes.
think we're gonna conclude, is
Yes.
that's also part of the story of Jesus. Yeah. So many people say, "Oh, Jesus is the Western tradition, and he's just Christianity." No, no. Jesus learned. from the East. And then he embodied and brought it to the West.
Can
And
you
this
just
is
share
not,
a few things
yeah.
on what all, or maybe which countries, or what are some of the teachings which you mention in the book?
Yeah, so I haven't yet really gone onto the depth of the teachings themselves, but what I have been observing so far is um, Jesus was learning both from the North Indian traditions, so Kriya Yoga, Mahavatar Babaji, and those masters, but he also traveled to the south of India. So, Tirumvanamalai, Tantra Yoga, Shivaism, that lineage of Paramashiva. So he had both. He was a master of Tantra, but he also understood, the principles of the cosmic knowledge, what, for example, Mahavatar Babaji represents. And Jesus embodied the Holy Trinity of Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. And Mary Magdalene embodied Saraswati, Mahalakshmi, and Shakti.
Wow. Yeah. I'm really curious, so I'm going to ask you this for myself.
Yes, sure.
Obviously, when he came to India, he did not know Mary Magdalene. This whole thing happened after that, right? Like, that's what I know from the Sophia Code. So,
Yes. Yeah. But he he started receiving visions of her when he was in India. So when his journey was coming to an end, I think it was when he journeyed from the north to the south. This is just coming through, so not yet written anywhere. Because he went from north, he started going south, and he also went to Tirunvannamalai, and where he really deepened in the mysticism of Tantra Yoga and all of that. That's when she started appearing. Because when he was doing Tantra Yoga, she's suddenly appearing opposite him as his divine feminine counterpart. And when he was doing Tantra Yoga, he wasn't doing it on his own, but she was energetically in front of him. So they were doing it. She wasn't physically in front of him, but they were already doing it. So, and then there is one more thing that I don't think any tradition talks about, and that's he also went below the surface of the earth.
wow. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Well, I haven't really tuned into it. I know his sister didn't go with him on that. That was just him, but he is saying, I'm going to take you, I'm going to show you what happened.
Yeah, because there is a lot of talk of Lemuria being Kumari Kandakam, which is south of India and under the water there.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's amazing. So, probably Lemurian, the dolphins, maybe, I don't know, that's coming through for me suddenly now, but yeah. So, I think last question probably is that, what is your vision, or the three of you together, like, uh, obviously the books will come one by one as and when you channel them, but for this first book, what is your vision, or how do you wish to share this word to everybody, and what is the last message that you want to give for it?
Well, the message is not really from me, it's from Jesus. So he's just saying that stay true to yourself, follow your heart. I know it may sound cliche, but the heart is where your soul, when it enters the physical body, where it anchors. And your heart has the most direct connection to your soul. And your soul is connected to the higher realms where your higher self resides, and your higher self knows what's the plan for you in this lifetime. So if you're ever in doubt, just close your eyes and go deep and just feel within you. You know the answer. That's Jesus's message at this point in time. The vision, so the book is just a small part of what we are here to birth. We are being asked to restore Dharma on this planet. Yeah. Of course, this is not a feat to be accomplished by 3 people, but we are first of all going through a journey where we are understanding what Dharma is and what it means to live in a Dharmic way. In your personal life, in your professional life, in every aspect of your life. And then our prayer is to share that with others and to show through our living examples what is Dharmic living and what it means to restore Dharma. And our vision is that hopefully we can one day create a community where we can all live together in a dharmic way. We're all aligned. We've all reached that level where even though you might not yet, be God realized or whatever, but you've got that prayer inside of you as well. Let's create this dharmic community, this enlightened community together.
Thank you so much for sharing, and wishing all three of you a lot of love, a lot of light, and best wishes for this book.
Thank you so much.